Welcome back, folks. You don't very often see me sitting down, but I've had such a day, folks. Look at that. I'm like, forget. My hair's sticking all up everywhere. You know what? There we go. Let's leave it right there. Because that's what I feel like. I feel all miscombobulated. My hair might as well be too, right? So, I get up this morning, and I have to hit the interstate to where I go to work, right? Is that distracting you, folks? Huh? How gorgeous is that, Jazz, huh? So, I went on the interstate. Well, there's construction. There's one lane, right? Well, I was in the right lane, folks. And that's the only lane you could get into. So, and the speed limit was 55. So, me, Granny Grunt, I was going 50. Well, it was about 3 o'clock this morning, so nice and dark, right? And apparently 50 and a 55 wasn't fast enough for the person behind me. I can't stand it. So I sped up to 53, thinking that was good enough. Wasn't good enough. So this person was either late for work or was going to the hospital, maybe. I don't know. And I kind of hope it wasn't an emergency. But I just think they were being an ass, is what I think. Impatient. And I was in their way. So what'd they do? You know how they have cones set up? I counted them too, folks. Every 2.5 lines on the center of the interstate, every 2.5 of those dotted lines, there was a cone. Well, this truck decided to run over some cones to go by me, which one is illegal, right? And I was going 53, they was probably going by me close to 70. And I'm like, well, I said a few words. So, I'm like, you know what, buddy? Or gal, I said buddy. I said, you know what, buddy? If you're so anxious to pass me, I'll just take my foot off the accelerator, give you all kinds of room. So they did. They hit a cone, and the cone bounced up and down on the back of that, by the tailgate, by the rear wheels, bounced back and forth, up and down a little bit, and I could see it in my headlights, right? Because they have reflectors on them. So I put my brakes on because I didn't know where that cone was going. Just as soon as I put my brakes on, guess where the cone went? It went right smack dab right underneath my vehicle. So I drive an all-wheel drive Subaru, folks. And I guess it's called, I don't know what it's called. It's higher up off the ground than a crossover, so I don't know what it's called. So that went underneath my vehicle and caught somewhere, folks. It caught. And I could hear it dragging. It dragged, and I'm like, well, there's no place to pull over unless I go on the other side of the road where they've got it coned off. And I don't know where the construction crew was. Miles down the road, I assume. And so they had cones over here, and they had signs and stuff over here. A lot of signs, folks, and quite a few cones. So unless I stopped right smack dab in the middle of the interstate in my lane, I couldn't stop. I'm like, well, it'll bounce out. It will bounce out. Well, it didn't, folks. I dragged it for about, I don't know, it seemed like forever, but it was probably only a few hundred feet. And there was a vehicle coming up hard behind me. Could see the headlights, and I'm like, well, that's probably a cop. Maybe they're going after the guy that just passed me, or maybe I'm creating sparks down the road. I didn't know. So I slowed down and decided to gamble it. I put my flashers on, and where there was no signs or cones, I got over on the breakdown lane, right? And I pulled that baby out from underneath my vehicle. It was caught on something. So then, all was good. Then my tire light come on, that I was needed air and my tire. And it didn't feel any different driving down the road. So my vehicle, I don't know if you have a Subaru or not, but the air pressure is very sensitive. It could be like 2 pounds low and the light will come on just enough to irritate you. So I'm like, yeah, well, that's gonna have to wait until I get somewhere to get air in it. And I didn't have a flat tire, folks. It was just, I think it took about 1.5 pounds of pressure when I put air in it. So anyway, I got to where I'm working, and nothing seemed to go right. I had my coffee with me, and that didn't last long. That was already cold from the house anyway. So, but I drank that, and I just started drinking water after that. But I kept tripping over things and almost locked myself out, and I had trouble with the alarm and thought the alarm was gonna, because that's a minute. I think it's a minute. You have to put your code in, and I hit the wrong button apparently, and started walking down the hall. Then I'm like, that didn't disarm. So I went back and punched my code in a little bit slower, and that worked. But then I had to be, usually I spend 4 hours there, but they had me go over to another place by 6 o'clock this morning. Well, I got there, folks, and it's like a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet was the numbers were messed up, the dates were messed up, the times were messed up. There was items on there that shouldn't be, and there were duplicate items, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, you've got to be kidding me. And it was just one of those days. It was just one of those days, folks. So, on the way home, I put quite a few hours in today, folks, and it was like 85 today, so it was rather warm. So I stopped into the store I like to shop at. They usually has the good deals, and figured while I'm right in the area, I might as well go down the aisles. And I was tired, but I didn't want to go all the way back there if it was something on sale that I could use, right? So they really didn't have anything. They had gallons of water, 4 for $5. Well, they used to be $1 a piece, right, folks? So I got a couple of gallons of water, and as I was checking out, I said, well, I might as well grab one of those 10-pound blocks of ice, and because it's supposed to be hot the next few days. So I got those, and we have what we call bring your own bag in the state of Maine now. You bring your own bag in, or you just pile everything back in your cart and put it in a great big heap in your vehicle, right? Which I've done. So I was out walking across the parking lot, and mind you, it was very hot on that hot top. And there was this woman in front of me. She had a baby that was screaming over here. The baby was just screaming, folks. And it acted like it was, I don't know what it acted like, but it was not happy, folks, at all. And I could smell poopy. I could smell poop. So, and then she had this bag in her other arm, and there was this can of spaghetti sauce, folks, that was way to the top of the bag, and it looked like it had tried to fall out of the bag, but it was resting on her shoulder. Well, that baby was screaming. I tried to tell the lady she was about ready to lose her jar of spaghetti sauce or marinara. I don't remember what it was. I don't even know what it was. It was red and it was sauce. And so I'm like, the baby is screaming, and I've got this bright shirt on. I said, well, maybe I overstimulated it with my bright shirt, right? So I took my 2 jugs of water and my block of ice and was kind of holding them like this, trying to shield my shirt. So I was trying to shield my shirt, and apparently the shirt wasn't what was making the baby the toddler scream. So I'm like, ah. So I was almost to my vehicle when I saw that jar of spaghetti sauce fall. It went right over her back shoulder, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna drop my water, my block of ice. That I can't. I'm too old. I'm too old to run and try to make a mad dash or catch that jar before it hit the pavement. So it hit, folks, and I can tell you, it hit just right, and it was just like, I don't know, a volcano, folks. It just went right up in a mushroom and just splattered back down. You know, that lady, she looked back and kept right on walking. I think she was having a bad day too. So I'm like, oh, well, we can't leave it here. Well, I said that to myself, can't leave it here. So I put my things, my 2 jugs of water, my block of ice in the back of my vehicle, took my sweatshirt and tried to shield the ice from the heat and sun, and grabbed some paper towels from the back of my vehicle and proceeded to clean it up. And a worker came out and cleaned it up, or finished cleaning it up for me. But that lady, she was all over being fed up. She was all over that. She couldn't take any more, and she was just gonna keep walking. So anyway, I'm almost done, folks. So I pulled into my driveway, and apparently we had some wind here, and I had this grain bucket sitting on my deck, and apparently the wind came and blew it into the driveway, and I saw it, and I'm like, okay, I always pull in and back in, turn and back in, and so I pulled in and turned and forgot all about the bucket, folks. Forgot all about the bucket, and guess what? Backed right over this bucket, and I got stuck under my vehicle. I got stuck under the back end of my vehicle, and I'm like, you know what? You gotta be kidding me. So I pulled ahead, and it didn't come free. I was still dragging it in the driveway, so I said, you know what? Forget. I'm gonna do the same thing with the cone. It's my bucket. It's my driveway. I'm gonna drive until it unlodges. Well, I got halfway up to Cousin Shay's before I decided enough was enough. And you know what, folks? All it did was bend the handle. That's all it did. And I kind of like the handle better that way. It could be a little flatter up here, but that's all it did. So that wasn't so bad. It's just an awful sound dragging it, you know. Pardon my foot. So then I went out, tended to the birds, collected eggs. I always reach in, because I have to reach way in and grab the eggs. I always look in first to make sure there's not a mouse or a weasel or a rat in there, right? So I saw 6 eggs in one nest, and nothing else. So I reached my hand in there and grabbed right on to the poopiest chicken egg that I have ever had here in my life. Grabbed right onto it, and I had poop all over my hands. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Until you go into your garden, you put the eggs down by the gate of your garden, you go into the garden and decide to, you know, pick a lettuce with my dominant hand. Picked it. I had wiped the poop off, but it wasn't clean. It wasn't washed. It still had poop on it somewhere, I guarantee it. So I put that couple of chunks of lettuce in my mouth and quickly realized what I had done, folks. Yeah. So it hasn't been a good day. It's been one of those days that make you appreciate the good days. So for those of you who have animals, you've had all kinds of things. You've done all kinds of foolish things too, just not thinking, I guarantee it. So if you ever want to know what chicken poop tastes like, it's a little bit salty. Just FYI, just a little bit salty.